welcome back to Challenge Call of Max and Avery. I'm your host, Max.
And I am Avery. How are you guys?
All right, we are recording once again our regular Thursday night recording during the Thursday night football game. Avery, how's your week been going?
Oh, it's been long, man. Been busy, been long. I had trunk or treat tonight with the fam. My son dressed up as a penguin, the cutest penguin in the world. The cool thing, he likes like the penguin outfit. He just hates the hat, like the hood
The
that
hood
goes
part, the hood that
every
goes
time.
over the top.
Yeah, every time you put the hood on him, man, he would just like start screaming. So he was a headless penguin, but he had the body. I got him it because he likes to waddle a lot, so I call him Mr. Penguin.
Hey, a headless penguin seems pretty appropriate for Halloween there.
Right? Yeah. So that was my night. How was yours, man?
Oh, my week's been good. Football. We play an easy opponent this week, so it's been a little bit of a lower stress kind of week, just going through practice and like we're a little nervous. One of our better players was questionable with an injury, but I think he'll be okay. He's planning on playing, but we'll have to see how that actually goes by Saturday. But we'll get rolling with the podcast here, opening up with our sports news to start. First things first, Colorado Avalanche played, I believe it was Tuesday. Didn't get to watch the game, but I was checking in on the score. They did win it. They are currently undefeated, 4-0. So that's my little hockey update for the moment. Sticking with the Colorado theme, the NBA finally opened up. We had our first NBA game of the season. It was the Denver Nuggets versus the LA Lakers. Nuggets ended up winning it 119-107. I did watch the entirety of that game. The Kings also played, I believe, yesterday. Yeah, the Kings played last night. Didn't get to watch that one. Wasn't on in the area. So my plan for the NBA season is kind of figure out Kings or Nuggets, who's actually going to be viewable in the area, and just watch that game.
I'm guessing probably more so the Nuggets than anything. One, they won the championship last year. Two, Denver's a little closer to you than Sacramento is. Yeah, some NBA news, man. My Bucks are playing right now. They're actually down to the 76ers, 100-94, but we got 7 minutes left in the fourth. Good game. I mean, 76ers, they were a playoff team last year. Bucks, playoff team last year. So, like, that's a tough task to play right away.
Did they do that on purpose? Because the Nuggets and the Lakers also played against each other last year in the playoffs.
I think so. I think they wanted like more interest, especially on a Thursday night. And like yesterday, Wednesday, MLB's going on. They wanted more viewership, so they're like, let's put some good games on. Let's, a little scheduling finesse right there. Now the 76ers are up 102-94, so I actually have this game pulled up now on YouTube TV. So I'll probably give you updates throughout the Bucks. But yeah.
Well, I have Thursday Night Football pulled up over here on my new TV. By the way, got a new TV, 43-inch,
Nice.
ultra high definition. So love that. But speaking of your MLB playoffs, give us an update on the World Series.
Yeah, so the Rangers versus the Diamondbacks, man. The two teams no one really expected. So the Rangers played the Astros in the ALCS, and the Astros were up 3-1 in the series, and the Rangers stormed back, and they won, and they're now in the World Series. And same with the Phillies, man. The Phillies choked it out. Once again, Philadelphia, they get super close to a championship, and they just can't close it out. It happened with the 76ers. It happened with the Eagles. And now it's happened with the Philadelphia Phillies. So I feel bad for Philadelphia fans. Imagine being that close in all your sports, and you just can't win the big one. But the Diamondbacks, man, there's actually this really cool, like, superstition. Every time the Brewers make it to the playoffs, in their history, the Milwaukee Brewers make it to the playoffs, the team that beats them goes on to win the World Series, and the Diamondbacks went on and beat them. And it's happened every single time the Milwaukee Brewers have made it to the playoffs. So
you're saying everyone should go put their money on the Diamondbacks right now, just immediately.
Right now, immediately. It's kind of like ironic, but too ironic to like, I don't know. It just seems really, really like every single time. It's like a legit statistic every single time. So it's like ironic or a coincidence? Who knows? You know?
We're going to have to keep an eye on that and see how that plays out. But getting into the meat and potatoes of our podcast here as a football-oriented podcast, let's get into some of our football talk, starting with our Heisman candidate race. Number one, still Michael Penix Jr., obviously. Washington is now up to number 5. So could we potentially be seeing a Pac-12 team in the college football playoffs this year?
You know, if Washington kind of continues the track they're going, they're the team that would be able to do it. Over USC, I mean, maybe Utah, but they're going with the freshman quarterback right now. So, like, that's hard to decipher, you know? But Washington would be that team, but they did struggle mightily against Arizona State. They barely beat Arizona State.
Their biggest upcoming games right now, if they really needed to gain a position, they play USC, number 24 currently, not this week, but next week. Then they play Utah, currently number 13, and then Oregon State, currently number 11. So they've got to win all those games if they even want a shot to move up a place. And probably they need one of the top 4 to drop out, more realistically. They need somebody above them to lose right now.
Yeah, essentially probably like a Florida State to lose or drop a game throughout. But no, I think Washington State, they did end up losing, or they did end up pulling it off against Arizona State.
Yeah, that was absolutely insane to watch. I got to watch the first half of that game before I had to go to bed because, of course, that was a Pac-12 like late night game. Hate those late West Coast games, but still got to watch half of it before I had to go to bed. But I couldn't believe it. I could not believe what I was seeing. Like, Arizona State has been hanging in with everybody.
Right. Yeah, no, Arizona State, I mean, you pull up there, they hung in with Colorado, they hung in with USC. Like, one game goes the one way, and Arizona State could be like 4-2 right now. They could have a lot better record than it shows. Arizona State, I think that's just like comes back to coaching. They do have a first-year head coach, and so I think that's one of the things. But that's great signs for Arizona State to do this with a first-year head coach and still be 2-5 right now, or 2-4, and keeping their games alive. Like, that's pretty cool. And going a little back to Michael Penix, though, man, he did not look great. And quarterback play is going to be crucial, especially in a division like the Pac-12 right now, because he 275 yards, 0 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. So uncharacteristic.
Despite not great performance, though, in Week 8, he is still number 1 in the Heisman candidacy, which I don't know if that's surprising per se. Like, it's one bad game. We know everybody has them. But I feel like every time we watch any other quarterback have a bad game, they drop in the race. You know what I mean?
Well, and I think it goes back to, I mean, he still has 2,500 yards passing, 20 TDs, and only 5 interceptions. I think that's like the major aspect that why he's still standing firm. And like if he goes out next week and turns it around, that's probably the reason why. But yeah, I think Washington is a damn good team, and Michael Penix is a damn good quarterback to keep an eye on. Like definitely keep an eye on because he's probably going to be your Heisman.
Definitely. Why don't you tell everybody about our second contender in the race right now?
Jordan Travis out of Florida State, ACC guy. Man, I like Florida State this year. And one of the reasons I like Florida State so much is because Clemson's not the top dog in the ACC anymore. I like new blood. You like new blood. And yeah, Florida State used to be the top dog. Like even back to Jameis Winston in 2013, 2014, like Florida State was on top of the world for a while there. But before then, like it was the 90s with Deion Sanders. So like it's been a long time coming for Florida State, and they're ranked what fourth in the country right now. And so with them being ranked fourth in the country, and Jordan Travis, he's not one of those quarterbacks that's going to go out and throw 400 yards a game. But he's going to be consistent in every single game he has. Like against
those that's what you need out of the quarterback position. Yes, it's great to have this great like showmanship, power, go ball out kind of guys, whatever. But the game of football ultimately as a whole comes down to consistency. You gotta have consistency, because when you don't, that's when we see things like Washington struggling against Arizona State. You turn the ball over, you give them opportunities, you don't stay true to what you do, you can run into some issues. But yeah, so we got Pac-12 and ACC in this Heisman race right now, which there's also a new conference that came into the Heisman race, as well as a new position, which is exciting. But the one thing I just have to mention looking through this list is we have a mix of conferences now, and not a single one of them is an SEC school.
Yeah, that's surprising, right? I mean, the only person that you could, like, if you pull up the stats, the only passing stats, let's just go passing, right? Because, like, usually that's a predominantly, like, quarterback stat. Passing stats in the NCAA. The only quarterback that really comes to my mind that could have a potential in the SEC is Jaden Daniels. Yeah, so Jaden Daniels in yards right now for the LSU Tigers, he's 2,573. And he's thrown for 25 touchdowns and only 3 interceptions this year.
So already right there, that is nearly identical to Micah Penix Jr.
Yes, 100%. Actually, more touchdowns than Michael Penix Jr.
Yes.
And the only reason he's not in it is because LSU, yeah, they've lost 2 games, I believe. I can pull that up real quick. But they haven't looked good playing this year. And like because the defense gives up so many points. I have a buddy, he's a diehard LSU fan. And me and him talk all the time. Iowa just gives you their defense. We take LSU's offense. We have the greatest college football team of all time. And I firmly believe that because, like, their offense is rolling right now.
That goes to bring into the question, though, of, like, okay, we talk about quarterback versus team performance. Like, a Heisman is a position. It is a single player that is balling out.
Right.
Like you just said right there, LSU's quarterback has almost the same stat line, if not better stat line than Micah Penix Jr. But LSU as a whole isn't performing as well. Should that go against his candidacy for the Heisman race, though?
I don't think so, because the Heisman is supposed to be the best college football player. Not the best college football player on the best team.
Yeah.
Like it's not supposed to be the best player on that team. It's supposed to be the best college football player and what that means to a program.
But yet, if you look at who we have currently in this Heisman race, we've got number 3, number 4, number 5, number 8, number 9.
Right. Which is insane to me. That is like firmly like just insane to me. But yeah, I think, take out Jordan Travis because he's had pedestrian status and put Jaden Daniels in there. Like, I think there should be an SEC quarterback in this race right now.
Arguably correct. But we'll keep on going with who we got currently in it. Our next candidate is another Pac-12 quarterback, my favorite to win the race, Bo Nix from Oregon. He's just my favorite because, like I've said before, he's the only one I've truly watched play and everything. I thought he looked really, really good. Only one game. Not even like I watched multiple games or anything. Just watched one very dominating game he had against Colorado.
Yeah.
But in that game, he definitely kicked some butt. And so, I mean, he's got similar stats to Michael Penix Jr. too. 19 touchdowns, 2,089 yards. Little shorter on the yards, but right up there with the touchdowns still efficiency. Next up for them is going to be Utah, so that's going to be a real challenge right there. That'll be the real who's who in the Pac-12 kind of competition going on.
Yeah, no, I think Utah, like, that's either going to solidify Oregon as a team altogether, or that's going to solidify, and I think it could solidify Bo Nix as, like, a true Heisman candidate, too. But Utah's defense, we've mentioned it in the past, like, they play defense like they're in the Big Ten, and it shows. Like, they shut down opposing quarterbacks. They shut down the run game. You can't move the chains on Utah as often.
But during Colorado, Oregon, you also stated that Oregon plays offense like a Big Ten school, or their O-line is Big Ten-esque. So,
Yes. Right. And I want, your boy, Bo Nix, and they're playing your favorite Pac-12 school in Utah. Well, maybe. I mean, Colorado just came into the mix lately. Who do you got? Like, I am just genuinely curious. Who do you got on this? I know we've kind of talked about that in the past, but I'm just genuinely curious.
This is one of those games that I think I'm just looking to watch some real good football. I don't necessarily have a specific preference as to who comes out on top of this game. It's just one of those games where I want to turn it on. I want to watch some good football. I want to watch two very strong teams battling it out head to head. And whichever one of them ends up to be on top by the end of things, I think I'm going to be content. I'm going to feel good regardless of who wins this game.
For sure. And I just, like, since we're talking about Utah, like, what a play by a freshman quarterback in Nate Johnson last week. I mean, I know we're getting a little recap later, but what a hell of a play, man. Like, that was great. Like, that 17-yard scram to get in field goal range? That was awesome. It was just, like, heads-up play. And Utah might have found another quarterback for the next 4 years.
I think they do have a good, solid backup, which is, or not even backup right now, but like you said, the next 4 years, like they have their next guy. They have the guy in line ready to go, which is awesome because, like you mentioned, I do enjoy Utah as a Pac-12 team. I am very much a Utah, I don't want to say fan per se, like they're not my number one team or anything, but like I support them. I heavily support them. I'll say that.
Yeah, and they're going to be fun to see in the Big 12. Like, I think, because guess what? Honestly, we'll probably see more Utah games now that they're moving to the Big 12 than we ever did in the Pac 12, because guess who they got to play once a year? Iowa State. Guess what's going to be on in our time frame? Iowa State versus Utah. And if Matt Campbell can get things figured out at Iowa State once again, that's going to be a damn good matchup and probably a primetime game.
I'm excited to see how both Utah and Colorado do once they get to the Big 12. That's going to be a big difference in the teams they play and just the environment they're kind of in conference-wise, and I'm all for it. I hope they perform well. I will have a reason not to cheer for Iowa State outside of the Cy-Hawk game.
For sure. And that's kind of where I'm at too. Iowa State. That's why I am excited. But the same flip, like, I'm excited to see what Oregon will do, like, in the Big Ten. Like, and it's kind of sucks because Oregon and Utah, they have this type of rivalry, kind of like Iowa, Nebraska, Iowa, Wisconsin. So seeing that rivalry kind of die now because they probably won't play each other every single year, it's gonna suck.
Yeah, we're gonna lose a decent amount of low-key rivalry, but also there's rivalries and then there's in-conference rivalries, which when you get down to the nitty-gritty, yeah, there's a lot of rivalries in conference, but also isn't almost every in-conference game going to be low-key rivalry? Like you just said it yourself, Iowa, Wisconsin, Iowa, Nebraska, Iowa, Minnesota, Iowa, and everybody in the Big Ten fucking West, because that's just what conference play is like, like you fucking hate other teams. But true rivalries, the ones that go through and through every year, like Iowa State. If it's a true like deep-seated rivalry, it's going to continue to play on a yearly basis.
You would think, and the only reason I don't think it will is because they're not in the same state. I think that plays a huge role into those type of rivalries. They're not in the same state, and so just like Iowa, Nebraska. Like when Nebraska was in the Big 12, we did not play Nebraska every year. We play them every 3 years, but we never played them every year.
Exactly, because it was just a conferential rivalry a little bit. Like to me, that's like an in-conference thing. Like if they leave again, because they're looking to go to Big 12 again, aren't they?
Yeah, there's been a lot of talks about it.
So if they did, and we stopped playing them every year, like that's if you had to pick Iowa's number one rival,
it's Iowa State.
It's Iowa State. Like, yeah. And so even if we weren't in state, I feel like we would play them every year. Just like that is like the rivalry. When you have a true rival, like you play them.
Ooh, baby. The Bucks are leading 113 to 111 against the Sixers right now. So
there you go. Brought it back. Anyway, enough. We're only through 3 of our Heismans, so let's go on to our 4th. I'll let you talk about this one.
Marvin Harrison Jr., the first non-quarterback on our list and the first Big Ten appearance on our list. And I like this. I know we have a hard time talking about other positions in the Heisman race because in the recent past, it has been strictly quarterback. But he's had a good year. I mean, last game against Penn State, arguably one of the best teams in the Big Ten. He had 162 yards and 1 touchdown. And that's pretty good. I mean, again, one game, that's really good. And then 767 yards on the year and 6 TDs. That's also really good.
It's nice seeing a little bit of a change up here and having a non-quarterback in this race. Receiver, sure, still a skill player, still a big contributor. You know, they do a lot. But yeah, like you said, it's harder to compare because I don't have the same. I mean, as far as stat lines go, I got 5 of them in front of me. I can compare 4 of them, but with this one receiver, like I don't know who else to look at. Like, okay, is this a lot of yards? Like, who else has what this season? That's the only difficulty of spreading it around like this.
And it's similar to what, like we already talked about Jaden Daniels in LSU. Well, his number one receiver right now, he has 900. Malik Neighbors, he has 981 yards receiving. He has 9 TDs.
So once again, it's like why? How do they choose who they choose?
Right, and LSU is only 6. They're 5-2. I mean, they're not that far off. I mean, yeah, they're not undefeated. They're still in the top 25. Why are these guys not on the list? Like, it doesn't make sense.
That is my biggest bitch with analysts and just the way college football works and operates in general. I know this is irrelevant to the playoffs and how the playoff system works and the college football rankings, but it goes to the same principles. Like, what exactly are you guys looking at? Because based off the stats alone, like if that's all that it really matters, like there are other guys, there are better guys. Like I don't know who sits and makes these decisions, but I just don't. I hate it.
Yeah, no, some of them don't really make sense. Kind of like our next guy on our list, JJ McCarthy. This is very controversial.
Yep.
I know you have
Michigan quarterback, decent stat line, you know, balled out against Michigan State, all that. But biggest thing we do have to mention with this being Michigan is the allegations that have been going on with the whole signal stealing.
Yeah. I actually have kind of started following this a lot more. It's hard, right? Because with one, we'll just go into JJ McCarthy's stats real quick. JJ McCarthy, 287 yards, 4 TDs versus Michigan State, right? I mean, hell of a game. Blanked them, 49-0. Like, you can't ask for a better offensive or defense, as we're talking about. They shut him out. And 2, J.J. McCarthy has 1,799 yards and 18 touchdowns on the year. So once again, that's pretty impressive also. But going into the allegations and everything that has been occurring, you got to really think how much is the defense benefiting the offense with time of possession. They're not on the field as long, and they keep getting the ball back, right?
Yeah.
How many?
So
how much
the thing to bring up first is, okay, signal stealing. Obviously, happening on the defensive side of the balls. They are allegedly stealing signal, or they recorded games previously, learned and analyzed the other team's signals so that they know what play that team is going to run, and so they call the perfect defense against that play. And so, yes, should that penalize JJ McCarthy as an offensive player? Like, oh, like that's the defense's dealings and doings, whatever, blah blah blah. Like as a quarterback, that doesn't necessarily affect what he's doing. Like the 0 points being scored by Michigan State completely could be called cheating. Like that is cheating. Like, great, you shut him out, you cheated to do it. But 49 by the offense, like that's still an offense that has to score 49 points. Like that doesn't just happen every game, Now, what you're bringing into this that we're kind of trying to decide here is, okay, the defense knowing every play is really easy to go get a 3 and out, which immediately puts your offense back on the field, and that's going to wear their defense out. Like Michigan State's defense is going to be exhausted when their offense doesn't use up any of the clock and give them any of a break. So that's where even the defensive cheating by Michigan can come into play with, like, I think it's just really, really weird timing that all of this news and signal stealing breaks out. And then it's like, hey, JJ McCarthy's going to be on the list too. Like, why? How?
Yeah. Well, and you look at it, and we kind of mentioned, like, the defense 3 and out. I mean, all year, like, the scores go 30-3, 35-7, 31-6, 45-7, 52-10, 52-7, 49-0. That's just some of them, right? That's a lot. They've blown every single team out. The highest scoring team scored 10 points, and that was Minnesota. Everybody else, and their closest game that they had was against Bowling Green, 31-6. And you got to think that they wouldn't have sent anybody to that game to record their signals because they kind of figured that was a give-me game. And, well, it showed. I mean, like, yeah, they still blew them out, but it was 31-6. Closest game they've had all year. Let's get into the guy that is accused of this. His name's Connor Stallion. Connor Stallion, he graduated from the Naval Academy. He served in the Marine Corps for 7 years, and his job was deciphering codes. This guy
fits so perfectly with exactly what he was doing. Deciphering code, i.e. play signals.
And the crazy part about this guy, man, and he had a 500-page manifesto on how he would lead the Michigan Wolverines as the head coach someday. And anybody that has a manifesto screams out psychopath.
Yeah, that is red flag number 1. Just having a manifesto in the first place, boom. Like, nope, we're done with it. Like that's number 1 right there. But so much for that manifesto, because after all of this, there's no way he's working in college football ever again.
No. And I saw a crazy stat today. Jim Harbaugh's record when he took over the Michigan Wolverines in 2017 through 2021, before this Connor Stallion got hired on the staff, was 25-22. Barely 500. Since Connor Stallion has came on the staff, they are literally 37-6.
Yeah, that's a little. There's red flag number 2, Red
There's red
flag number
flag.
2. Like, hey,
Uh,
are you that great of a coach, or what's going on here? Why do you bring on one assistant and all of a sudden y'all are just hot shit?
yeah, right. And so this comes back to the next thing is Jim Harbaugh going to get tied up with this because as a head coach, you got to know what's going on in your program.
Yeah,
You
there's no
can't
way
say
he doesn't know, right?
right. Like you can't deny like you didn't know this, especially when they were using Michigan funding to buy tickets for these games. Here's this stat: 12 out of the 13 Big Ten games or Big Ten teams, Michigan bought tickets for 12 out of the 13 for individuals to go. You got to think, the one team that they didn't buy tickets for was probably the Iowa Hawkeyes because they really don't need that, right? I mean, Iowa's offense, come on, man, you
Yeah.
don't need to steal signals for us. But 12 out of the 13 Big Ten schools, they bought tickets to go and go to their games. And another aspect with this is Connor Stallion, if you wanted to cover your tracks and you were this great of this, the cipher of codes, which he put on LinkedIn, something similar that like strictly said like he's like great at discovering the opponent's weaknesses and creating a course of action. Which, I mean, yeah, it sounds like a
That's
defensive guy.
that's what defensive guys do. Like there's a difference between deciphering what the offense is going to do and coming up with an appropriate plan of action. Because like that, I mean, that's what our defense does every week. That's what our offense does every week. Like we watch the past 3 or 4 games of who we're playing. We figure out like what they do, what their tendencies are, and what we should do to, take advantage of those tendencies and blah, 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 score more points, or on the defense, stop them from scoring. So like, that's just a normal total, like that is something that I would say is completely normal for like any coach to put as a talent. The only issue was his deciphering wasn't necessarily like studying what's going on in film so much as it was studying the code of the play signals, which is morally wrong.
Right. Yeah, it's cheating. And like going back to the Jim Harbaugh, he's gonna get caught up in this. He'll probably lose his job. Michigan's gonna be under scandal after scandal, and then guess what? The sanctions are gonna hit. Sanctions are gonna hit Michigan very, very hard. Michigan's gonna like get depleted because players aren't gonna want to stay there. Coaches aren't gonna. They're gonna clean house in the coaching. They're probably gonna clean house AD wise, and that makes you question: is Jim Harbaugh heading to the NFL?
Maybe. Now that's the big key of all these allegations and whatnot. Like this is morally wrong, blah blah blah. Does that affect just his college career, or does that affect his ability to get an NFL job as well? Like is an NFL team going to be like, oh, we don't give a shit. Like, yeah, come here.
NFL is all about making money. I think the NCAA still cares mostly about like the integrity of the game. The NFL is all about making money, and you can't tell me Jim Harbaugh is not a top 32 coach in the NFL. Because I mean, if you think about it, even with these allegations, everything, so you can put an asterisk with the Michigan tenure. Before Michigan, he led the 49ers to the Super Bowl. He had a very, very successful career of developing quarterbacks in the NFL. And then before that, like he developed Colin Kaepernick into a Pro Bowl quarterback. And then before that, he's the one that developed Andrew Luck at Stanford and won a national championship with the Stanford Cardinals. And look how they've done since Jim Harbaugh's been gone. The last 15 years, nothing.
So there's definitely still a good chance that he probably gets an NFL job, despite huge scandals. Because, I mean, to be fair, it's not like it was him. Yeah, there's no way he didn't know about it. But, like, I don't know. His biggest problem would probably be not stopping it. Like, I doubt he set up his assistant to go do this. He probably just was like, hey, check out like what I'm doing or what I did. And he probably just didn't stop it, didn't question it. Like, Sure,
Right.
yeah, this will help.
And I hate to say it, if the Bears are one of those teams looking for a head coach, I would still take Jim Harbaugh. I think he would be great in Chicago. So I hope all this is true. He gets banned by the NFL or by the NCAA, and he comes and coaches the Chicago Bears and finally turns around our shitty organization.
Yeah, I'd be okay with it because, I mean, like I said, it's not necessarily like he did it himself. I would be completely fine with him coming to the Bears. We need a head coach. We need a good, solid, successful head coach. And I think he would be a great option.
For sure. But other than the Michigan, I mean, we might as well talk about another Big Ten school, our favorite Big Ten school in Iowa.
Yep. All right. So we'll get into our college football recap now then. Disappointingly, Iowa did lose to Minnesota. I hate to say it, but I fucking told y'all. Everybody was so hyped and all adamant about Iowa's going to be the worst 11-1 team at, well, now we're going to be the worst 10-2 or whatever the hell the numbers are. Yeah, 12-10 loss to Minnesota. But should that have been a loss for us?
No, we should have won this game 17-12. Cooper DeJean with what, a minute 20 left in the game. Minnesota punted the ball. He evaded 6 Minnesota Gophers and literally returned it for a touchdown, man. And then a phantom flag appeared on our field. And evidently they said he fair caught the ball.
Yeah, which is bullshit. I heard so many different explanations as far as to the announcers or the analysts or whatever were talking about how he was like calling away, like he was telling everybody to get away from it, and that was somehow equivalent to a fair catch as well. Like, do we know like a final, like, was it just the fact that his hand was waving? Because his arm never goes above his shoulder. Like, his arm does not come above his shoulder to give any sort of fair catch signal. It is down here the whole time. But they were almost saying it as if him calling everybody off of the ball was the same thing as saying, like, this is a dead ball, which I don't know if that's a rule. I don't think it is. I don't know. I hear a lot of controversial talk about this. Of course, I am pissed with the play call. I don't think it should have been called back because it's even questionable that he was waving people to get away from the ball. Like, it almost looks like he's just pointing at the ball or at people to block. Who knows what he was doing, but I hate the call.
No, I hate the call too. I'm reading a little up on it, and they said review shows that he used his left hand as a waving motion. And if he would have used his right hand, it would have been fine. That doesn't make any sense in the world.
What does that matter at all?
And then that's when these rules are applied. Any waving motions renders the play dead. I don't think that's right. I mean, that's on ESPN. So, but I really don't think, I think they're just trying to cover their own ass because they knew that, well, they fucked up. And
this is over officiating to a T. This is like officials are getting way too fucking involved. And let's be real here. We've seen those like crazy plays where, or at least I'm assuming you have. I feel like I see one on Instagram at least like once a month where you have a punt return where the dude catches the ball, just kind of like hops and stands there for a second, and the defense stops and just kind of starts to walk off. But he never gave a fair catch signal, so all of a sudden he takes off again. And he goes and scores a touchdown, because like, oh, you never gave a signal, and, the defense. Like, should that not be illegal? Like, should that not be the real, like, you can't do that, bro? Because that's the whole point of the fair catch, is protecting yourself. And what happens in the Iowa game, no one stops coming after Cooper DeJean. Like, fair catch signal or not, like, no one was called off or no one held up or pulled back after his like running to the ball. You know what I mean? Like, those Gophers are still coming hard. So I don't see why it matters whatsoever that his arm was swinging because he was running. Like, he's running. Of course his arm is going to, like, swing. Like, the man is trying to run while he's pointing with this hand. This arm is going to have to swing for balance.
Yep.
None of the defensive player, or none, whatever you want to call them, punt team, no one on the punt team stops pursuing him. Therefore, I think it's irrelevant as to whatever he called because, like, the pursuit is coming. You know? Like, it's not like that affected the play whatsoever. It's not like he was like, wave, couple defensive players slowed up, then he grabbed the ball and took off with it. Like, no, the defense is coming one way or another.
I agree, dude. It was a bullshit call. We should have won this game. I do want to talk about another player in this game.
Hold up, before you do, I saw something today too that the ref that threw this flag is also the same ref that we had last year during the Iowa-Minnesota game, and he also threw a flag that took away a touchdown by Jack Campbell scored last year.
Sounds about right.
I have no idea what the deeper conspiracy is on that, or why the fuck this dude just apparently doesn't fuck with Iowa or something, but that seems really fucking suspicious to me.
I think instead of investigating Michigan for signal calling, we need to investigate this ref at this point because he keeps fucking over Iowa. Like, what the fuck? But other than that, man, Tory Taylor, man, when are we going to start hearing his name for the Heisman? He's our Heisman. He's our Heisman candidate. I love that guy.
He is one of the best punters. I know we were looking at the stats the other day, but his average punt, he is top 4. Like, he is still top 4 or top 5 for, like, average yards per punt, which is awesome, and that's an actual comparable stat. But he also is number 1 in punting attempts and number 1 in punting yards, just because he has more punt attempts, which is crazy. So he is legitimately just the number 1 punter in college football right now. And, I mean, shit, yeah, as far as Heisman go, like, he sees the field more than Deacon Hill does right now. So if there's going to be a player on the Iowa roster that's up for Heisman, offensively, I suppose I should say, because Cooper DeJean could easily be a defensive Heisman, honestly.
Oh, my God. And that brings me to Cooper DeJean. Like, when is Brian just going to start throwing him on offense? Because he would be our leading receiver. I hate to say it, he's the best athlete that's at the University of Iowa program. And you worked with these guys. You could probably attest he works hard in the weight room also.
He does.
I bet he works his ass off, and it shows every single game.
For his size, he doesn't look like anything crazy. Like, he's a DB. Like, he's a safety. Right. Like, he looks like a safety. But he puts up some weight. Like, in the weight, like, he moves some fucking weight. So, like, dude is jacked.
Yeah, and the other thing with it, right, is if Travis Hunter could do it, I guarantee Cooper DeJean could play the slot for a couple of games. He could get a couple of yards. He'd be our leading receiver. It takes some pressure off Deacon Hill, right?
He doesn't even need to be, like, a true offensive player. Like, just have one package. Have one personnel set where you put him in at a slot or something, or a running back. Shit. Put him in as a running back, fucking hand him the ball in, like, a wide zone, and let him fucking work.
And he would be just as impressive as he is on defense. I guarantee it. But, yeah, we do have a bye week next week, so that'll be interesting. Much needed because you got to think the momentum and the emotion in that locker room, probably that you could hear a pin drop because they got screwed over very, very heavily. But at the same time, it should never have been 12-10.
No.
And that's just the grand scheme of it. Brian Ferentz is definitely probably not going to reach his goal for 25 points a game. And, I mean, he'll be gone. And hopefully, I'm starting to think I need Kirk to be gone too.
Yeah. Currently, Brian Ferentz is at 19.5 for his points per game. So he ain't making that cut. Iowa's only won 6 games also, So he is below on that cut, but they're gonna win at least one more game. They should win the rest of their games, honestly. Like
We'll see.
if we don't, we have some big, which I already know we have some big issues. But if they don't, we really have some big issues.
This is the last thing I want to talk about, like Iowa wise. And it's not even Iowa wise. Do you know the only Big Ten West school that controls their own destiny right now?
Wisconsin.
Nope. Nebraska. Nebraska's 4-3 right now, and if they win the rest of their games, they win the Big Ten West this year.
Do they? Well,
Yeah.
I get because they haven't played Iowa yet, so
They haven't played Iowa, Wisconsin, or Minnesota yet. So if they play all three of those, they control their own destiny and they win the Big Ten West. And believe it or not, they look good. Like their defense looks good. Their offense doesn't look great. So
that's honestly the most nerve-wracking game I think Iowa has coming up because we have Purdue, Illinois, and then Nebraska. Like that's all we have left. Northwestern.
Yep.
So yeah, like two teams that just the defense should be able to beat by themselves. We could not have a single offensive player at the game, and I think our defense would win against Northwestern or Illinois. But Nebraska, especially with the backup quarterback and Deacon Hill not playing great, on top of having two of our main tight ends out, that's going to be rough, to say the least.
Yeah. And it's scary to think as much shit as we talk as Iowa fans to Nebraska fans, as much we shit on Nebraska's football program. Matt Rule's got him turned around, and I hate it because I like Matt Rule, man. I think he's a good coach.
Yeah. But moving on a little bit into one more game, I wanted to recap real quick. USC did play Utah. Once again, Utah proved their dominance over Caleb Williams, who, if you didn't notice by now, was not in the Heisman race anymore. Fuck him. Bad loss to Utah. I mean, they only lost by 2, but still, like, I hate Caleb Williams. I like Utah. Utah put it to him, showed him who's still boss in the Pac-12, and I was all about it.
For sure. Yeah, no, and I'm glad Utah pulled that off. An upcoming college football team that you got mentioned is your team, Colorado, versus 23 UCLA. Why don't you tell us about that?
This is going to be interesting because, once again, it's a ranked opponent, which obviously Colorado has fallen out of the rankings. I don't think they necessarily deserved to be ranked either. Like, I would be kind of in agreement that they are below a top 25 team. Potentially. I'm not 100% sure, honestly. But this one I'm nervous about because it's not like we're playing a top 10 team. You know, we're not playing in Oregon or Washington or Utah, anybody like that, USC. We're playing number 23 UCLA. So, I don't know. I feel like this could easily be anybody's game. Which, to be fair, Colorado playing anybody could be just about anybody's game because the way that they play offense, it's kind of how we were just saying, like, consistency is what wins game. And Colorado isn't the most consistent, but they make huge plays, and they make them often, which is where they get a lot of their wins from. But it's also why they lose like a chunk of these games against really good teams, is because really good teams are going to take away a good chunk of those really big plays. And if you don't have some consistent ball movement beyond those shots, you're going to struggle.
Well, and the next thing I want to talk about with this too is Colorado's 4-3, right? They're 4-3 right now. They don't win this game 4-4. They play number 11 Oregon State, Arizona, Washington State, which is a really good Pac-12 school, and then Utah. The only game that I see them winning on this schedule is Arizona and this game right here, possibly UCLA. And that would make them bowl eligible, which would be like an awesome like statistic for Dion first year at Colorado, making a one win team bowl eligible in their first year. But yeah, other than that, if they don't pull this off, man, I think they go 5-7 and miss out on bowls.
I think they have one more win somewhere in them. If it's this game, if it's Washington State, they have one, or even if it's Arizona, they have one more win in them. They're gonna drop it because, like I said, when Colorado plays, it can be just about anybody's game. They're gonna have at least one more game where everybody's gonna be firing. They're gonna have shots called up just left and right, and they're gonna hit a bunch of them, and they're gonna not blow somebody out maybe, but they're gonna hang in for just enough to get one more done. Especially knowing that like a bowl is in contention here, like they're going to be fighting their ass off for it. I think they make a bowl. They can't not get a bowl this season. They're making a bowl
for sure. Yeah, that's all I really got on college football. Kind of want to talk about Bears.
Yep, we will move into our NFL recap now. We'll try to make it quick as we've been taking a while here, but we will talk about the Bears' second victory here this season. We beat the Raiders 30-12. Avery's fandom can reside within Chicago still. Tyson Bagent looked pretty good for his first official start. 21 for 29, 162 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. I know it came due to injury and all that, but who was saying earlier this season that Bagent was going to start at some point?
You did. I don't think he did enough to continue. Like, I think Justin Fields still our starter. He's looking for week 9 as a comeback. So not this week, but next week. I didn't think he did bad, man. No, I liked what I saw from Tyson Bagent. But Justin Fields would have got crucified for 162 yards and just 1 TD in a week,
Sure.
a year ago. But this is, and this is what I was talking to one of my friends about, is right here is where the quarterback, where you get drafted, you get higher expectations put on you where you get drafted. Because if Mitch Trubisky would have been drafted, and I'm using Mitch as an example, Mitch would have been drafted in the 6th round. He would have never been a first-round quarterback. He would have fell into the starting job in the 6th round. He'd still be the Chicago Bears starting quarterback. And I firmly believe that. Because he didn't do enough to lose you the games, but he didn't do enough to win you games. He needed the help from the defense. He needed the help from playmakers. And I think he would have done just enough to keep, let's start this guy. It's similar to Dak Prescott. It's similar to Brock Purdy, where they were drafted 4th or 6th round or even undrafted like Tyson Bagent. Like, that is the difference maker. But Justin Fields drafted in the 1st round. Hey, you're a 1st-round quarterback. You got to win. You got to be this. That's too much pressure on a young quarterback. And so all these Bears fans talking about Tyson Bagent's the next quarterback of the Chicago Bears, I disagree 100%. It was his first game. Hit the brakes. Let's see what he does against the Chargers on Sunday night. If he does well again, we can talk, but still I'm not ready.
That's the game I am very much looking forward to, is him playing the Chargers, because that's going to give us a lot more of an idea of like, hey, here's a pretty good NFL defense. Let's see how you hold up with a solid defense, going against a solid defense that plays good football. And like, then maybe we'll talk a little bit. Justin probably comes back regardless. I mean, Andy Dalton was fully intended to come back for Justin too. Like, Justin was never meant to just continue the starting role from that point on. But I do think Bagent's a really solid quarterback. I think whether backup or he starts getting in a little bit of a starting rotation in the next few years here, whatever ends up happening, I think he's a real solid quarterback. One thing I will say, though, is I did see a post that was talking, it was some video analytics, and it was showing that his 5-step and 7-step dropbacks were about a half a second faster than Justin Fields' were, giving him a little more time to read and make a decision with the ball before the defense could get to him.
which is fine. And but it was one game. It was one
It was.
game, and they probably compared that to similar plays of Justin Fields, like one game, or like certain plays of different games.
I mean, it was similar. Like it was just clips of how long
Right.
does it take. It wasn't like they took every 7-step drop back and like averaged them.
Divided it.
Like
Yeah, averaged it.
it was one or two drop backs that they played them side by side and counted the seconds.
But no, I do think Tyson Bagent did well, and I'm glad we got a win, and I was really happy during the game. But this has happened so many times in the Bears franchise. Like we've had 29 starting quarterbacks since 2000, and I saw a quote today, and it really stuck with me. It said, contrary to popular belief, the most popular player in Chicago Bears history isn't the late great Walter Payton, Brian Urlacher. It has always been and will always be the backup quarterback. And I firmly believe that. I think it will always be the backup quarterback because the quarterback is never good enough in Chicago. And it goes
Definitely.
back to that every single time.
I have one question. You're always the big old questions guy here. Well, I have a question for you this time. Because
Okay.
obviously we want to see Chicago with a decent record, right? Like we want to see Chicago win games. So we want to see them beat the Chargers.
Yep.
Now, what are you hoping for more? Do you want to see us beat the Chargers, even if it came at the cost of Tyson Bagent having a good ass game and replacing Justin Fields?
I mean, I always want to win. I want to move to that 3-5 record. So I'm going to choose to win. But what can Tyson Bagent do after the Chargers? What can he do the rest of the year? Because what if he goes on a 7-8 game run, leads us to a magical playoff run after starting 1-5? Then yeah, maybe Tyson is the guy. Or even if he gets us to an 8-8 record, maybe we keep Tyson Bagent similar to what the Washington Commanders did with Taylor Heineke, and then go draft a quarterback and see what they can do with that quarterback. And then we move on from Justin. But if he just is going to pull out 1 to 2, maybe 3 victories for the rest of the year, I want to see Justin back in because I think Justin still has more potential as an NFL quarterback than Tyson Bagent. I think Tyson Bagent is going to be a fine, well quarterback for the next 10 to 12 years in the NFL as a backup. I think he'll get a starting job here and there. He'll be similar to a Josh McCown. He'll be similar to a Andy Dalton. He'll have that opportunity to shine, but I think he's a backup quarterback at heart.
I just had to ask because I know we had the conversation, I forget how long ago, of like, well, which do you love more, Fields or Bears? Like, if Fields
And
is not the best fit for the Bears, like, are you still going to be so gun ho about keeping him in the backfield?
and I'm not gonna lie, I've debated with myself this year. This year has been like a trial and tribulation. Who do I love more, the Chicago Bears or the Field or Justin Fields? Because like I think I've been one of the biggest advocates for Justin Fields because I firmly believe in the guy. Um, but at the same time, I've been a Bears fan since I was 5 years old, and so at that point, you got to think, okay, I will still support my Chicago Bears, and I'll support whatever team Justin Fields ends up starting for and becomes an All Pro, because
Definitely.
that'll happen.
You can still like Fields regardless of him moving on.
Because I
But
guarantee you still like Mitch in a way.
I haven't paid any attention to Mitch.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there we go.
I couldn't even tell you if he is currently with the Steelers still or if he's not even in the league. I really don't know.
No, he's still the backup for Pittsburgh.
Okay. But no, we'll mention one more game real quickly, recapping here as we're running a little low on our time. Packers versus Broncos. Just had to mention it because fuck the Packers. Also, Broncos are a little bit of a secondary team to me, so it was just double the enjoyment getting to watch the Broncos have a little bit of success actually winning a game here and beating the Packers. And Jordan Love does not look great.
No, And I don't know if I like that Jordan Love hasn't looked great the last couple games because now the Packers are
Gonna draft
fifth.
somebody.
Yes, they're right now they're ranked fifth for the NFL mock draft, which is crazy because I have not seen the Packers in the top 10 in the NFL draft in probably my whole life. So seeing the Packers at 5, but he's looked really bad. He has looked really, really bad, and I think Jordan Love's not the guy. He's not the answer to replace Aaron Rodgers.
He's definitely not the guy, but at the same time, I'm with you. Like we need him to be just enough of the guy that the Packers don't just draft somebody else and immediately find success again a year later.
Right. Yeah, 100%. So we need the Packers to start winning a couple of games, all right?
Just a game or two, here or there. Just like a solid game
Like,
or two. Like
one every 3 weeks, I'm good with because
yeah,
they
that's
won't
good.
make
That's solid. That's solid.
like a 6-10, 6-11 record. That's fine with me. 6-11, they can push the year.
Speaking of winning a game or two, the Packers' next game is versus the in-conference rivals Vikings here. That's going to be a noon game on Sunday. Do you think that's a game they can potentially pick up? The Vikings did just knock off the 49ers, so that's some solid competition.
Yeah, I don't know. It just depends what Kirk Cousins shows up. Like Kirk Cousins, like the couple weeks before the 49ers game, he started struggling a little bit, and the Vikings kept falling. But he looked really good against the 49ers, man. Kirk Cousins, I like Kirk Cousins. I don't like that I like Kirk Cousins but I do. I like Kirk Cousins, and he did really well. And I think the Vikings kind of got some momentum, depending if Jordan Addison's coming back. I'm hoping he comes back, fantasy-wise.
Mm-hmm.
Max, you got something to say?
Nope. Avery beat me in fantasy this week because Jordan Addison popped off. I played Deshaun Watson, who got -1 point. I was very upset.
At least Deshaun went out hurt in the second half, and that's why he only got you like negative.
What difference does that make to me? I don't give a fuck. My quarterback got -1 point. I don't care if he was hurt or not.
Bijan Robinson wasn't hurt at all, and he only got me 0.3 points. So I'm just saying.
Cool. I ended negative from a quarterback. Like,
yeah, that's a little rough. That's bad. But yeah, thank you. I deserve that win. Thank you so much.
I'm not going to win a game for the rest of the season. Much like the Bears might not. We already mentioned the Bears versus the Chargers up next. But what we did not mention is that's actually going to be the Sunday night game. So this is going to be a primetime game. Great for me because I'll actually get to watch the whole thing fully. Not great for Avery.
Yeah, first game I'm probably going to miss. I have to work. So that's going to suck so much. But I'm excited for this game, man. I think it'll be a good game. And we get to see Khalil Mack again. You get to see Khalil Mack again. I mean, he's been doing well this year. And so I always like to see former Bears, even when they play the Bears.
If I wear my Bears Khalil Mack jersey, is that supporting the Bears or the Chargers in this game?
A mixture of both? Question mark.
Be like, yeah, go Mac, but like take it easy.
Like one sack, just one. No more than one. Don't force a fumble. Don't make Tyson throw a pick.
Yeah.
Just one sack. You get one. But no, he's having a good year this year, man. Right now he has 6 sacks on the year, 7 sacks on the year. It brings back the age-old question: did we get rid of him too early?
Yes.
Yes.
100%. I hated that we got rid of him so much.
Me too. He was the heart and soul of the Chicago Bears, and we just threw him aside. It's the story of the Chicago Bears.
As we've been known to do with some of our best talented players, but, go McCaskies. I think that's all the time we have for you guys today. We're glad we were able to get this out. We will get you back again next week. Avery, any closing statements?
Nothing, guys. I just got 2 things to say. Oh, I do have a closing statement. I forgot. The Milwaukee Bucks ended up pulling it out, 118-117. Damian Lillard looked great. with his first game as a Buck, 39 points. So, hey, not gonna lie, we're 1-0. I mean, it looked scary for a second, but I just got two things to say, guys. One is go Hawkeyes, and number two is bear down.